Welcome to LYLAS. If you grew up in the 90s, then you probably know what that stands for. And by default, this podcast is for you.
Welcome to episode 52. Hello.
Hopefully, you joined us last week where you got to hear our riveting retell of our retreat in Arizona. And that was a little bit of a lighter episode, I felt like.
Mm-hmm.
We've covered some kind of heavy topics. And today, I was telling Sarah right before we got on, like right now, life just feels heavy. I don't know if anybody else feels that way, but that's definitely what's going on in my life right now. Life is heavy. And so I was thinking this morning while meditating that I wanted to go back and talk more about meditation because if when things feel heavy, I feel like this is when you lean into your tools and really cling to what you know is good for you and supports you when you're going through something. And so I wanted to kind of go back and talk about that again. I know we did one episode on meditation, but I feel like I understand it so much more and can give so much more insight. And if you've been around me in the last 12 months, you know, I've probably asked you if you meditate. It's one of those annoying things about anybody in wellness. Like whatever we're doing, we're probably talking about it in social situations. And so meditation definitely is one of those for me. But I wanted to go back. Sarah is totally cold turkey on this. She has no idea. I had this all planned in my head. This is how we roll, peeps. We get online, we say, what are we going to talk about today? And here we are. So in my mind, I wanted to go back to like, why did I start meditating? Because I don't think we've ever really covered that. It's one of those things I was watching people on social media do from afar and kind of rolling my eyes at them like, cool, glad you have all that time in your life to sit down and meditate. I don't have time. You know, we tend to always like, I don't have time. I don't have time. And that's true in most cases. We don't have time for a lot of things unless we make it a priority. And so, like, what led to the whole I'm going to start meditating every day? And for me, I feel like most people have some sort of event that happens that kind of forces us to look in internally or forces us to do some work on ourselves. And for me, I think it really started about 3 years ago with a fallout that I had with a good friend of mine, a best friend of mine. And it wasn't immediate. It wasn't like immediately like I need to do some work on myself. But after about a year of really grieving that loss of a friendship, you know, I was about to turn 40 and I was like, I'm going to take some time. I was kind of in a dark space in life. I didn't really like my career. You know, there's just a lot happening at that time, I felt like. And so I was like, you know, I'm just going to take a year and kind of commit to myself. And I'm going to try this meditation thing. People swear by it, but I'm going to give it a go. I'm just going to start every day for like 3 minutes a day when I wake up, and I'm going to do like a guided meditation. So that's kind of how it started for me. And I think anybody that's going through anything, whether it's a divorce, a loss of a friendship, a loss of a parent, I mean, any kind of loss that we go through, it typically is followed with grief. And then at some point, you have this like come to Jesus moment with yourself of, okay, where can I improve here? Where, because I truly believe there's not one person that's ever solely responsible for any kind of breakup, you know, friendship ending, anything like that. There's two people that play a part in that. And you have to own your part in any kind of fallout that you have. And so I just, you know, I did it kind of as a 40th birthday present to myself of here we go. We're going to start this and just see where it takes us. And I can very happily say now, 18 months into it, meditation has changed my life. As corny and cheesy as that sounds, there's so much truth to that statement, to the idea that I can sit in silence and focus on my breath and sure, I still have thoughts. Everybody has thoughts when they're meditating. People are like, I can't stop thinking. That's not the point of meditation. But I still have thoughts, but it has really brought to life my deepest desires in life and who I'm trying to become and what I'm trying to do with this limited time here on earth. And so it just has added so much value to my life. And so I think when I think, you know, like I said, life is heavy right now. I know, somebody recently committed suicide. We have my dear friend's celebration of life this weekend. There's just some like real heaviness in the air. And I keep going back to if I could, you can't do anything in a lot of these situations. You can make some
Mm-hmm.
food, you can send some flowers, you can show up for your friends. But if I could share one thing to anybody that's really going through it right now, is to just consider a meditation practice just to see if it can do for you what it's done for me. And I'm going to just throw out a number here, but millions of people. I feel like anybody that you talk to that meditates regularly will tell you it will change your life.
Mm-hmm.
Would you agree with that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that first the evidence supports it as a not just a like a typical Eastern based kind of philosophy or practice, but even Western medicine has now recognized it as a way to just promote general wellness.
Mm,
And a lot of practitioners do suggest coming to some type of meditation practice. But I think that the biggest barrier is that people just don't know where to go or what it
mm,
looks like, or that there's confusion between, is meditation a religious or a spiritual activity? What really is it? And so I think providing clarity to
mm.
getting on that path would be so helpful to people. And maybe we can use this as an opportunity to do that.
Yeah. And as you said that, I'm like, I don't know that I have the answers to all of those questions. I've sort of made it into my own practice, which is part of the beauty of it. You can make it whatever
Mm-hmm.
your soul is needing at this time in your life. And we've talked about how we're spiritual beings. We grew up and, going to Baptist church. And I feel like we both carry forth that spiritual nature about us, but finding how this works for us as a real practice of like sitting
Mm-hmm.
not with yourself, because oftentimes I use my meditation as my lead into pray to my prayer. um how does it work for us that we can continue to cultivate our spirituality and feel that closeness that we desire, whether that's with God, whatever you serve.
Mm-hmm.
um how can you use up this practice to help you um integrate that into your life? Does that make sense?
Yes, most definitely. Mm-hmm. And I like how you say that your meditation often leads into a prayer.
Every day.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as I close my meditation, I go straight into my time with
Mm-hmm.
God, because that's
Mm-hmm.
that's sacred time to me. I'm already very clear. I'm very calm. I'm very centered. I have things on my mind. I have my heart prayers, the people that I pray for every single day,
Mm-hmm.
and so I go straight into it.
Mm-hmm.
Been a journey. Like that wasn't the beginning. In the beginning, I was just trying to survive 5 minutes of sitting still in silence.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard in the beginning. And that's why I often recommend to try a guided meditation, because you're not just sitting in silence, you're focusing on whether it's a mantra or, they're telling you what to focus on, which is always a little
Mm-hmm.
better than just silence and sitting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That that's what I do now, but I could not have done that 18 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
No way, no how.
Mm-hmm. No, it is very challenging. So, entry points for that, you've used different apps that you found to be
Mm-hmm.
helpful as
I do.
entry points into meditation. But I mean, in going through that, you can use an app, but just in terms of your own space and place, you've talked about before, it's not like you have to like go out and buy like a meditation stool or a
Mm-mm.
chair or anything. You can do it sitting in your bed.
Mm.
The most important thing I remember um, when talking about a meditation practice from our Copra retreat is that whenever you are about to begin meditating, the most important thing is that you're comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
So, however you find comfort within your body, within yourself, that is the starting point for your meditation. Because if you're uncomfortable, that's going to serve, as an additional distraction to the natural process of it. So, you don't need anything fancy. If you have a nice, comfortable chair and a cozy blanket and a fuzzy pair of socks, great. That's pretty much all you need
That's all you need.
from a yourself kind of a position. Go to the bathroom before, like real simple tangible things to help you then enter this space where you can I feel like I don't know that this is the right word, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but almost like surrender to the process.
Mm-hmm.
But in order to do it, the most important thing is to make sure that you are comfortable as a human being. Go to the bathroom, like I said,
Start there.
find your
And
spot.
you probably noticed I started bringing like socks with me. I love to be cozy and warm socks, like you said, blanket. I do it in the upstairs bedroom. That's kind of like my quiet space in the morning. And so it doesn't have to be. I don't have a meditation pillow. Sometimes I use my kids' bean bags and sit directly facing the sun if the sun is coming out, because I love that feeling of the sun, kind of ending a meditation with the sun on your face.
Mm-hmm.
I don't always do it that way though. Sometimes I do it before the sun gets up. So I just, I do it sitting in the bed and just being very comfortable. And like I said, it definitely evolves over time. And I've mentioned this before, I used the Melissa Wood Health app. She
Mm-hmm.
has some great creators on that app, different styles of meditation. I have definitely tried all of them. And you're going to find your favorites, the people that you just tend to gravitate towards. You like their voice. Their voice might be very soothing, or you like something they said, or just the flow. Some of them focus more on like moving energy and using a lot of breath work. And those tend to be a little bit more challenging for me. Um, I don't know why I find breath work challenging, but I do sometimes. And sometimes I don't. That's the other thing. Some days it's like I can slip off in a meditation and do it for 30 minutes and be like, wow,
Mm-hmm.
that's five. And then some days it's like 20 minutes feels like 20 years. It's just every
Mm-hmm.
day is different. And I'm still learning not to judge the practice. I don't slip into the gap, the elusive gap that they talk about, or, that, which is, I think, the goal in a lot of meditation practices, is to reach the gap. I don't do that. I don't know that I ever have. Maybe if I have, it wasn't, you know, something that I remember, but I'm trying to just not focus on that. And it's really
Mm-hmm.
when you know that a lot of times that's the goal, is what people are trying to reach. It's like, the pinnacle. They're like, oh, I haven't got there yet, or I'm not going to get there today. I just try to focus on what I'm doing,
Mm-hmm.
focus on breath, repeat my mantra. And it is pretty powerful what comes up when you just sit in silence. And sometimes it's not silence. Sometimes I can hear my husband banging around downstairs, and I'm like, can you just shut the fuck up so I can sit up and meditate? But that's also not the purpose, right? The purpose is to go inward even when there's chaos surrounding you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that is become a muscle that I am trying to flex all the time now. Anytime I feel myself elevated or getting worked up, I'm trying to remember that I have this new tool where I can go inward and I can almost immediately calm myself down. And that's powerful when you
Mm-hmm.
realize that you truly have the power to regulate your nervous system. For somebody who struggles with anxiety, it is incredibly powerful to have that tool.
Oh
But
yeah.
that's come at 18 months of doing this. I couldn't have done that, you know, a year and a half ago.
No, and that's where it's a practice, and it's not about perfection.
Mm-mm.
It's continuing to do it. And for me, it's not even. I'm not as consistent or as good at it as Jen. Working on it. We're all building consistency, right? We're all works in
That's
progress.
right.
Um, but for me, I think what it does is it helps so much with uh, anger and resentment.
Mm-hmm.
And those are like we've talked about on the podcast before. Typical emotions I don't tend to feel or get real worked up on, but I can get real hot real quick on those too. And so for me, I think that's what I try to dive into with meditation, because, like you said, um, in those moments, if I'm able to build that muscle, then I know
Mm-hmm.
whenever it's needed for me in a situation, then I can hopefully turn into it and flex it more readily than just having to do something on the fly and hope to God it works to calm me down or the situation, because that's just not going to work either, you know?
Yeah.
And so that's where it becomes a very important tool, and just, I guess, as a way of just emotional regulation. I mean, I think the meditation that we even listened to this morning, um, was it today? Is it? I think that it said something about emotional freedom
Mm-hmm.
was one of the words that it used as part of the whole process. And so I think that that is what it gains from. That's what we gain from it, is that kind of freedom that we are not what we feel or what we are thinking. It is really just the ability to be, in a
Mm.
sense. And so that's what
Yeah.
I'm trying to work on and gain from it. But you're right, the distractions are there. And so if you're a mom or a dad or whoever listening, you're supposed to have different intrusive thoughts that kind of come up during this process, right? You're supposed to have different sensations or different sounds or, again, distractions that happen. And the goal is that you always continue to go back.
Mm.
It's not that you ignore them. It's not that, like, whenever a thought crosses your mind, you become a beaver and start to build a dam with those thoughts, right?
Right.
um, the idea is that whenever a thought or a feeling or sensation comes up, it's almost like you see it passing by you on a river, where we're not clinging to it, we're not holding on to it, or attaching ourselves to it. We are allowing ourselves just to see it and be reflective of it, and then allow it to kind of pass by, or like a
Mm-hmm.
item on a conveyor belt, and then it goes through into its next stage and process. Like, it's all about non-attachment, I guess is
Mm-hmm.
another word for it, as the sun rises in West Virginia.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking this morning when of course I have thoughts and your to-do list starts running through your head. If you're a morning meditator like me, you're like, oh, I need to do this and I don't forget this. But one thing I've started to do is like, oh, okay, like notice the thought and then just go back to your breath. And for me, mantras are so easy to focus on because you're just
Mm-hmm.
repeating the same thing over and over again, whatever mantra it is. Sometimes it's, I am here now, breathe in, I am here now. Sometimes I'm saying things like, I have we received a personal mantra through the Chopra
Mm-hmm.
retreat that we did. Sometimes I utilize that one, or sometimes if you're following a guided meditation, they'll give you a mantra to kind of focus on, and they're not necessarily words that mean anything. Like I gave you an example of ones that do, but our personal mantra or the mantra we used this morning in our meditation, like those words mean something. I'm sure in some other
Mm-hmm.
language, but to me they don't mean anything, which is almost kind of helpful when you're repeating this. You're almost like vibrating a sound in your head
Mm-hmm.
versus focusing on words and what those words mean. So I kind of like that I don't know what these words mean, that I have some idea, but I'm just kind of, you can, again, you don't want to attach yourself even to the mantra.
Mm-hmm.
It's just helping you quiet a little bit to settle. And I'm constantly telling myself, soften, soften your face,
Mm-hmm.
soften your eyebrows, soften your jaw, soften your tongue. You're kind of also doing a relaxation technique. And that's why you feel so damn blissed out at the end of a 20-minute meditation. Like, I am
Mm-hmm.
here to serve the world with love. That's very much how I feel. And I am a different mom, a different wife, a different friend, a different employee. I'm a different person after I've meditated versus before. Or if I don't, God forbid, if I skip a day. If I don't get it in the morning, I usually do it at night.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm a different person. And I think once I started to notice that, it opened up some things that I needed to work on, and B, it it also allowed me to see the good parts of myself and my capabilities.
Mm-hmm.
I have found so much through this practice that I want. I've said this before. I wish I would have started this in my 20s. I think about how different my life could have been if I would have started this practice way before now. Um, but it is what it is. So you move forward.
Mm-hmm.
I found it now and I'll never leave this tool. But wherever you are in your life, whether you're going through something or not, I feel like every single human being can benefit from a meditation practice, just as important as it is to move your body every day.
Mm-hmm.
You're into
Mm-hmm.
health and wellness, which you probably are if you're listening to this.
Mm-hmm.
Consider what this practice could do for you, just like your gym membership,
Mm-hmm.
just your green juice, just like your protein powder, everything else that you do to be healthy. This is your mind's workout, or at least that's how I view it.
No,
And
definitely.
I'll skip a
Mm-hmm.
body workout for a mind workout any day because
Wow.
that to me is way more important.
Mm-hmm.
I try to do both, but if I only had time for one thing, meditation, non-negotiable every day.
Wow. I think that really says a lot too. And I hope that's and like, that one just needs to be maybe reset again and just to stick there for a minute.
But that's for me. That's, you
Mm-hmm.
are never going to skip your run for a meditation.
That's probably true. I think, and that was one thing I think I got too out of the um, Copa retreat whenever I was talking with the Ayurvedic practitioner. Um, the whole process is that you go through different levels of wellness with them, from your diet to your spiritual practice to self massage to dry. I mean, all of these different things that help you out as a total system.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever we were talking about meditation, one of the goals for it was that maybe it is a like that I'm going for like a 5 to 12 minute kind of meditation period, and that's good because that's just what I need. But and I do think that this is true. Meditation does not always have to mean that you are sitting down. Meditation can be an active meditation. Like I've said before, sometimes I'm doing yoga and the teacher's voice is the guided meditation. And
Mm-hmm.
so I sync really well whenever I'm doing a yoga practice. Like I do it most of the time with my eyes completely closed,
Mm-hmm.
which I know is totally weird if you're in classes with me. Sorry for being weird, but um, my
I think
eyes are
that's good.
closed and my breath leads the movement. And so
Mm-hmm.
my breath is always the thing that guides everything that I'm doing. And that person is just kind of again giving some direction to it. But even if it's a different teacher or one I haven't had, it's almost like if you surrender to that process, your body knows naturally what the next thing is, and you
Mm-hmm.
even flow to it without the person necessarily saying it, and it's just that's weird, but good. And then even whenever I'm running, sometimes because you're so focused, for me, I don't listen to anything. In
Right.
fact, if I am at my house or driving in a car for 8 hours, it is always in total silence. I have no music, no sound, no anything going. So quiet is fine for me. Um, so even when running, I'm not listening. I'll be out there for 8 hours and I don't have anything going. But
I don't
that
know how you
is,
do that.
I'm so focused on breathing. I'm focused on my breathing. I'm focused on my heart rate. I'm really focused internally on everything that is kind of going on with me. And sometimes I won't even, and this is kind of a problem because I run on trails, I'll even just zone out and forget where I'm at or where I'm going because you just get into that place.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that's almost like finding a gap where I'm not
Mm-hmm.
even thinking a thought. I'm not even necessarily paying attention to where I'm going. And then I'm out of that moment and I'm like, okay, where the hell? You know what I mean? Where
Yeah.
am I? What just happened here?
How much do I have left?
Right. Literally, where am I?
Yeah.
And how do I kind of get back? Um, because you just get so focused, and then at points of time it goes away, and then a thought comes up, and then I do get some insights from that. Like a lot of times I'm on a run and I'm like, well, this is why X, Y, and Z happened. But for me, I would not have been able to work that out, I don't think, without me having some movement attached with it,
Mm.
because that for me is where I can't unknot something at this point in time without having some movement associated with it. I think about like undoing like a necklace or, whenever those things get
Yeah.
all kind of twisted up.
I can
Um,
get that because you have a lot that comes up. A lot of energy comes up when you're
mm-hmm,
meditating. Anything. That's why I typically go from meditation right into movement. Whereas
mm-hmm,
at the retreat, we always did movement, then meditation. So, I mean, and I think that's the beauty of it. You make it whatever the hell you want it to be. There is no right or wrong way to do it.
mm-hmm,
Oh, and just remind, it's just like yoga. If you've had a good yoga teacher, they will tell you don't compare your practice to anybody else in this room because your practice is different. And they
mm-hmm,
might be doing headstands, and that's not where you're at. You have to meet yourself where you're at. And if you can set that goal that you want to do a headstand by the end of the
mm-hmm,
year and work towards it, but don't compare yourself. Um, and so I think that's important to remember. That's true for anything. Like just meet yourself where you're at. If it's something that you're open to and that you want to investigate, start small and
mm-hmm.
just let it evolve. for you because it will naturally do so. My practice, I think, looks very different than the people that I used to follow on social media and roll my eyes at.
Mm-hmm.
Different things. I do it, different apps now. And then sometimes I don't use anything at all. Sometimes I just sit in silence. It just depends
Mm-hmm.
on the day and that sort of internal check-in, which is something I never did before I started meditating. I never had like a moment of silence where I just like sat with myself and was like, how do I feel today? How's my body feel? What hurt? Like, where am I sticky? What's ruminating in my head? Like, let's investigate these feelings. Let's
Mm-hmm.
get curious about what's happening inside our bodies.
Mm-hmm.
And I never did that before. And now that's just part of the routine, part of the morning.
Mm-hmm. Well, what a good way to start, with
Yeah,
a
taking
check in.
stock in yourself. Take a little check in on yourself. And by no means am I perfect. I want to make
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
very clear. I like to think that I share the good and the bad on social media to some extent. I mean, I don't share everything, but like
Mm-hmm.
I also don't want anybody to think, wow, she's really living the dream over there. Yes, I am. And I have a very, very blessed life that I'm very grateful for. But like I got my own shit that I'm dealing with every day too. And
Amen. Mm-hmm.
I'm a work in progress, just like everybody else. And some days it goes really well, and some days it doesn't. And,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I, some days I meditate and then I go downstairs and yell at my kids, like, not
Mm-hmm.
something I'm proud of. And I
Mm-hmm.
think, well, is this all for nothing? But then I remember all that it has given me, instead of looking at that one piece of information, look at all the other pieces where it has supported me, all the other days where it has carried me through, all the other days where it's regulated my nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
don't give so much stock to that one instance where you walked downstairs and yelled at your kids
Mm-hmm.
because they're too loud while you were trying to meditate or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Um, it's a work in progress, but
Mm-hmm.
man, has it really changed things for me. I feel like it has elevated me in life, and I have
Mm-hmm.
goals and dreams and desires that I didn't even know were inside of me.
Wow.
And I wholeheartedly believe that it all came from starting this practice,
Mm-hmm.
which is why I have felt passionate about sharing it on here. Because I really truly believe every single one of us can benefit from it. I don't care how evolved you are. I don't care how great your life is.
Mm-hmm.
There's always something inside of us that needs tended to as well.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I like that you said it that way. Whenever you talk about like the insights that you've gained from it, it's not, and correct me again if I'm wrong, it's not like you wake up, so to speak, from that meditation practice and are like having like a aha moment right
Mm-mm.
after that. It's usually something that just kind of emerges like
Mm-hmm.
later on, right? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, sometimes you may wake up and be like, wow, that was really helpful with this. But when do you feel like you get that insight? Like, how does that process kind of
Um,
evolve
it
for you?
depends. So I have quite the morning routines, and I think I've probably talked about this before too. But I usually read like a little bit of I don't know what you call it, kind of like devotion.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'll read that, and there's usually like a prayer. At this point, I've already meditated usually, or sometimes I'll do it before, and then I will meditate and pray, and then I try to journal almost every day. And sometimes it's like 5 things I'm grateful for. Sometimes it's 5 wishes. Sometimes I write 3 pages. This morning I wrote 3 pages. It just depends, but a lot of times it comes out in that journal writing,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and just that simple practice we took. This was, gosh, what, a year ago? We took the Mel Robbins
Mm-hmm.
podcast, some sort of course you could take, and I can't even remember what it was about now. But one of the practices as part of that course was to write down 5 wishes that I had every day. And
Yeah.
so I've just kind of carried that through. I like to take things that serve me and then just like I am making this wellness plan, little here, little there. I'm just taking what serves me and leaving the rest. And so that's one of those things that I have taken, and where I think we can talk about manifesting too, because I big. told Sarah this. I love going back in my journal and looking at all the things that have happened, that all the things that have come to fruition that I wrote a year and a half ago or a year
Mm-hmm.
ago. Like that just gives me full body chills. The fact that we have some type of control over manifesting our hopes and our dreams. And so sometimes it comes out in that, in
Mm-hmm.
like thoughts that I'll have. Or like you said, I'll be sitting here doing some work and I'll get an idea and I'll be like, oh, I've never had this thought, or I've never had this idea before. And
Mm-hmm.
so it almost never happens in the meditation or even
Mm-hmm.
directly after. The meditation is more about like blissing my nervous system out so that I can move forward in my day in a very peaceful, calm, centered, let things roll off kind of way. Now, having said that, last Friday I had a man reverse into my car as we were going through a car wash. And I will tell you that blissed out state of me left very quickly, where I was dropping F bombs and like not happy. Um,
Mm-hmm. Oh my
but what did I do? I got out of the car wash, parked where I could, and I just took a minute and I reset because he took
God.
off.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it didn't damage my car or anything. But like, who the fuck does that? Who puts their car in reverse when you're on a conveyor belt going through a car wash?
Oh my
Anyway,
God.
I just took a minute because I was like very elevated. My heart rate was racing. I was pissed. And I was like, I no, this stops right now. And it
Mm-hmm.
lasted 2 minutes and I was fine. And so like it's more of using the tool throughout the days when you need it. And yeah, like I said, these ideas just sort of come and they come in weird, random ass times.
Mm-hmm.
And who's
Mm-hmm.
to say that I wouldn't have had them anyway? But I truly feel like a lot of it comes from just the quietness and going internal and thinking about things from a different perspective, or just like that gratitude journaling is huge for me. Like you
Mm-hmm.
take stock of all the things you're grateful for, it's pretty clear, or it's a lot easier to go, okay, now what are some of like my hopes and my dreams? Because we could argue all day that a lot of people just don't know what the hell they want. I had a conversation with a friend the other day. She was like, I hate my job, but I have no idea what I want to do. I was like, girl, I feel you. That was me years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Had no idea what I wanted to do, but I knew that I didn't want to do my job anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, it will come. And of course, I'm going to peddle
Mm-hmm.
like this idea of meditation and like taking time, and you can do that while you're working that shitty job that you hate.
Mm-hmm.
If
Mm-hmm.
you're getting paid well. I wasn't, I'm an educator, but um, you can still start to integrate these practices into your life even if you're working, and just watch the magic kind of evolve. I truly mean the magic will evolve. I
Mm-hmm.
think all the things I have gained just since I started this meditation practice, and maybe they would have happened anyway, maybe they wouldn't have. I'll never know. But my life has been so enriched in the last 18 months that I some days can't even believe this is my life. Like I'm like, who gets this lucky?
Mm-hmm.
Who gets this lucky to have everything she ever wanted? Literally. Are there things I still want in life? Sure. But like, I literally have everything I could ever want in this
Mm-hmm.
moment.
Well, that's a
And
huge reflection. I think if we all just took down all the static that surrounds us, then we would probably all be a little bit more reflective of that too.
yeah, it's we're all guilty of judging ourselves and judging others and having certain expectations based on what other people's lives are. But the truth is, like, we get to decide what our life looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think God has a plan for all of us, and we'll get a little religious there. I do think that at least that's my belief system, that God has a plan for us, but he also wants us to be happy and to create our happiness. And there's so much happiness that comes when you realize how much power you have.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
No, I
That's
totally
some
agree.
real woo shit there for you on Monday. But um, I just, it is something that means so much to me. And so it's dark. It's some dark days right now. We have some dark days ahead. It's hard to think
Mm-hmm.
about what we can look like and calling for really crappy weather, which, is just equally as shitty. But, I know that I am doing all the things that truly lift me up and help me get through life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all I can do. That's all any of us can do. And if you're going through, I mean, I know some people going through some really, really tough shit right now.
Mm-hmm.
One of those people, you have to find the practices that hold you together. You have to.
Mm-hmm.
Something besides drugs and alcohol that, is not the right path.
No,
You've got to find something that is supporting you and holding you together when your life's falling apart.
no, that's definitely true. And not turning to a vice that is, putting gas on a fire.
Right.
That is destructive in and of its own self, and that does prevent that kind of sense of peace. Those things just cause more physiological unrest, either in the moment or afterwards. And
Mm-hmm.
so then you're left back in the whirlpool again, or in the Ferris wheel of hell again from
Mm-hmm.
all of that. And so it does.
And
It's just,
I think, sorry,
no, go ahead.
I also think it's important. Like, you might not be ready. If you're going through tough shit right now, you might be like, hey, LYLAS, I don't want to meditate right now. I got enough on my fucking plate. And
Right.
I hear you. And like I said, like, I had that fallout 3 years ago. Like, that first year, I was nowhere near ready to work on myself. I was angry. I was grieving. It was hard.
Mm-hmm.
My marriage was struggling, not struggling, but like challenged by it because I had a husband that's like, I don't understand how women just like stop talking to each other. Like, I don't understand how anything brings such divide. And like, when your person cannot understand you or fully accept, your
Mm-hmm.
point of view or whatever it is, I don't even know if that's the right way to say it, but like, it creates tension. It creates
Mm-hmm.
that feeling of like, I didn't feel supported, and he's trying to support, it created this weird dynamic, and that year was hard. I mean, I don't
Mm-hmm.
know how else to say it. It was just hard. Um, but once I kind of got through the grieving process, because you do grieve, I don't care who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, the loss of a friend, whether it is, a death or a fallout, is
Mm-hmm.
still a loss for anybody. And you have to fully process that grief. And once I had kind of processed that, I was ready to go, you know what? There's probably some work for me to do on myself here.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take a magnifying glass and see where I went wrong or what I could do differently or what I need to work on.
Yeah.
And nobody likes to admit that. And I can tell you, 30-year-old Jenny would have never done something like that because
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't think I had anything. I thought I had it all figured out. I
Mm-hmm.
had life all figured out. And yeah. So, I mean, you might not be ready for it now, but it might be part of your wellness plan moving forward once you get
Mm-hmm.
through the really deep, hard grief.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe consider, okay, what practices can I put into place to help me now that I'm ready? You have
Right.
to be ready.
Right.
You have to be ready. Like,
Whenever you were talking about support, and I think anytime you start a new practice or a new wellness kind of like adventure, you want, maybe this is just me. You want cheerleaders to also like back you along in it. You
mm,
want to feel like the support, like, hey, I'm doing hard work right now. Like, this sucks. I've started journaling lately, and that's something we had kind of talked about. And I do it I have one that I keep in my purse that I will always have, and then I have one by my bedside. Um, and I think that that's been helpful. But whenever you start something new, whether it's meditation, journaling, drinking this green water stuff, whatever, you want your people in your life to be supportive, right?
sure. Sure.
um, so where do you go for that? I mean, how do you, if you're a person that is, maybe in a different type of relationship where your partner may not be as supportive, or are they supportive? Like, how do you navigate those waters then? What would you suggest?
Mm, for me, I don't know. I don't know that anybody was necessarily supportive of my meditation. My husband was supportive in that, like, he knew what, and to this day, like, he knows, oh, and my kids know too, like, mommy's
Mm-hmm.
meditating. They can come up. Sometimes my daughter will sit beside me, but like, they give me that space to do it. But no one is like, yeah, you meditated again. Good job. Like no one.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I don't know. I think this is the one instance where I wasn't looking for outside recognition.
Mm-hmm.
This was all like doing it for me. And I knew that if it worked, right? Because I had a plan. I'm like, if this truly does help me and like others will see that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
my husband will say things like, yeah, like I do notice a different, or so I do get some feedback, but there's no like cheerleader, like there's nobody following up saying, hey, are you doing this? Are you not? Good job.
No.
And so I guess this was like that one time where I was like, I'm doing this solely for me.
Mm-hmm.
See what happens. It was kind of almost like an experiment of like, what happens if I meditate every day? What will
Mm-hmm.
happen? You know, let's just like if you're like, what happens if I exercise every day?
Yeah.
What will happen? Like just
Mm-hmm.
take it on. So yeah, I mean, I think we all like support. And I guess that is in some way he was supporting me. My husband was supporting me, but I guess yeah, there was no accountability
No,
partner.
I don't need an accountability partner for it. Yeah, but just somebody that would just be like, "Hey, I'm going to make this space in the house. Is it okay?" Yeah, of
Yeah,
course. You know.
of course. Yeah, and I guess we just never really had those conversations. I didn't really
Mm-hmm.
talk to anybody about it when I was starting it. I was just like, true Jenny form. I decided I was going to do something, and then I was like, all right, here we go. Um, I let's give it a whirl. Let's see what happens. And in the beginning, it was like, if I did it 5 times a week, great. It wasn't every day. Now, I would say for the last year, it has been every single day with like random days where I may have not done a 20-minute meditation or whatever. But,
Mm-hmm.
you know, in the beginning, it was just more of like, how do I find a way to fit this into my life so that I come back to it every day? And I was reading Atomic Habits at the
Mm-hmm.
time and really thinking about like habit stacking.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, here's something I do every morning. I make my AG1 and warm water with lemon and then coffee. Like I have 3 drinks right off the rip. So I was like, okay, where can I like weave in a meditation?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it tends to be after the warm water with lemon before the coffee.
Mm-hmm.
Like you just have to find ways to like weave this shit into your life because you're not going to make like these are my 20 minutes. Maybe you are.
Right.
God bless you if you're one of those people, but like I'm just not that kind of person. Um, but it's just part of my routine now. It's like
Mm-hmm.
pack the lunches, make my AG1, get my hot water with lemon, go upstairs. A lot of times I'll do my devotional, read my journal or write my journal, sometimes flip flop it. It doesn't have to be the same thing every day, but
Mm-hmm.
I guess he does support me in that like he gives me that time every morning. He
Yeah,
knows not to
that's
come
what I'm saying.
upstairs when I'm
Yeah.
doing it just because I need to be alone. And
Mm-hmm.
so when I'm around my family, they tend to think I'm like a health nut, which cracks me up. But they give me that space too. They'll see me in
Mm-hmm.
there meditating and they don't say anything. They're not in there pestering me.
Yeah.
It's just like let her be, let her do her thing. you know, Hopefully she won't be a raging lunatic today as a result of it.
No,
Um,
that's what I'm saying. It's not even like an accountability or like a even like a check-in, but it's just an acknowledgement that a space is needed or a
mm,
time is needed and it's just respected and understood. And maybe
mm,
nothing even else needs said about it. You know what I mean? Except just that that is what's happening. Or if you even say like, "Hey, I need a few minutes to go take a few breaths."
mm-hmm,
You know, that it's granted and acknowledge that, hey, in these moments, if this is gonna, we need to do this. This is like,
mm-hmm,
a death con situation here. About, in my case, anyways, the you know, there's this button that's getting ready to get pressed, and we need to make sure that the world's not going to explode. So, a few a few breaths from that is what's needed. You know what I
mm-hmm,
mean? And
yeah,
also, I think for me, what it is, and this is just being real honest and vulnerable with it. Whenever I get to that kind of point, it's kind of like a nuclear bomb. It's not the blast that kills the most people. It's the
the
radiation.
aftershock.
Yeah, it's the radiation thereafter. Because sure there's the heat from that, but I don't cool down from things quickly either. So if I
Right.
get elevated, then
And words
it's
have power.
there. Mm-hmm.
You can
Yeah.
say a word one time, but that sticks with people. And that, you know,
Mm-hmm.
that's that aftermath, if you will, of like
Oh yeah.
how that made that person feel, or then how it made you feel that you exploded. Like so much comes when we have these explosive episodes. And I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have at some point an explosive, whether we care to admit it or not,
Mm-hmm.
we all have it. And it has impact on ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
people that love us, the people that we explode on. I got real pissed recently. I think I was on an airplane. Yeah, it was coming back from Arizona from the wellness retreat. Somebody was rude to me and I smarted off because I got a smart mouth and no filter. And and then I felt really shitty about it
Mm-hmm.
all the way walking all the way out of the airport. Like, why the fuck did you do that? Why did you do that? It was unnecessary for you to match that person's energy.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like that aftermath, I guess that's what I mean. Of like, then I felt shitty, and that
Mm-hmm.
person probably felt shitty because I, said a little dig.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's like it was just unnecessary. And that ultimately is not what I am trying to put out in this world.
Right.
I really, truly believe that I am an incredibly loving person,
Mm-hmm.
incredibly compassionate. And like, that's what I want to radiate from me.
Right.
And I did not in that moment on that airplane when she was rude to me. And there are many other times that I don't radiate that, but damn it, I'm trying.
That's
And
exactly right.
I am getting, I feel like much better at it. I get a
Mm-hmm.
lot of random feedback from strangers
Mm.
and that feel comfortable like having, and I'm my father's daughter. I could literally talk to a lamp if I had to.
Oh, she's so
Um,
that's so funny.
he was the same way. Like he'd walk in the the gas station to get a pack of cigarettes and come out an hour later, and I'd be like, Dad, like where I've been sitting here for an hour, like where? Oh, I was talking to this guy and this, and so like I get that honest, but like people will say like they give me feedback, and sometimes that means more to me than
Mm-hmm.
hearing it from people that know me on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
Like sometimes when it's somebody you're like, are you saying that just to like bump up my self esteem? But like when a random stranger tells you like something really kind about yourself, not physical attributes, but like the way you made them feel or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
like that's such a different type of recognition that really just like feeds my soul.
Oh yeah, it's a big energy deposit. Can you imagine the ripple effects of all of that?
Exactly. I mean, isn't that
Yeah.
all we're trying to do is like
Mm-hmm.
put little coins in everyone's bank so that
Mm-hmm.
we build everyone else up, because that's truly what builds us up,
Mm-hmm.
is supporting and helping other people. I will always believe that,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
the, the good we do is what makes us feel good. And the
Mm-hmm.
bad we do, we've got to figure the fuck out.
We got to get that shit under control.
We do. But we're also human and you have to recognize that like you're going to make mistakes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And every experience is a learning opportunity and you got to take from it. And so like just to circle back around to where we started, from like how this all started for me. Yes, I felt like I needed to like take a look at myself,
Mm-hmm.
but also realizing that that whole, I don't even know what, fallout, there's got to be a different word. Um, everything happens for a reason. And it was really hard for me to see that 3 years ago. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what good is coming of this? And now I can see what, you know, the good that has come from it. It's not all good, but there's a lot of good.
Mm-hmm.
And, again, I think everything happens for a reason. And we don't necessarily have to understand it at the time. I certainly don't understand the losses that our family has suffered recently,
Mm-hmm.
in friendships and things like that. But I truly believe at some point we will understand that there's something good that can come from any circumstance.
Mm-hmm.
And you just have to, you got to ride it out, get there eventually, or don't. or you can go down the path of self destruction and see where that takes you. We're not here to advocate
Yeah.
on that.
Yeah.
So, oh Lord,
Right. I know.
we're not going to advocate for self destruction. We're going to advocate for tools that are helpful and
Mm-mm.
and help guide you on your path, whatever your path looks like.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And even that can be a good mantra, though. As you actually said it, I wrote it down. It's not like it's a new question or a new term. Hell, we probably say it every day, but today, whenever you said it, it struck me differently. What good is coming from this?
mm,
And that's not a judgmental statement. You know what I mean? I think
mm,
it's more of a, if anything, we say that, I think, in terms and almost want to look down on people like, what good is coming from all of this?
mm-hmm,
But if we change the tone, the inflection of our voice, all of those things, be like, what good is really coming from all of this? It
mm-hmm,
changes everything in just the way that you say it. And I think, in particular, in times of growth or struggle or challenge, that is a great go to mantra or saying just to kind of continue to come back to. That can even be used within a meditation practice. Like, going into it, maybe that's the intention that you said is what good is coming from all of this? And that's your
mm-hmm,
question that you just continue to go back to and say over and over and over again to yourself for however long your timer is.
mm-hmm. I
So,
love that. I thought I had forgotten about setting an intention with each meditation. That was something that they had us do at the retreat.
mm-hmm,
They even had us do that like for our massages. So I might go back to that, like setting a daily intention for my practice.
mm-hmm,
Because I like that. And sometimes that's just like it's you're doing the practice for you, but I like to like send that feeling that comes over you at the end of a meditation. I like to send that out to people.
mm-hmm,
Like I have a heart list that I always pray for people on my heart, and there's been some people that have been on that list for a long time, and they probably will be on that list for a long time. But I like to send out what I'm feeling to them because I do believe that energy
mm-hmm,
can transfer, and
mm-hmm,
you can control your energy and where it goes. I also believe that we are what we take in. And so when you were asking about like that feedback or whatever, part of that
mm-hmm,
was like cleaning up who I follow on social media.
mm-hmm,
If I don't get good feelings from watching your stories or your pictures
mm-hmm,
or whatever, then I probably don't follow you anymore because you are what you can consume, good, bad, and ugly. I quit watching like reality TV. They're just I had to take some stock in um what I was consuming, not just like
mm-hmm,
food, drink, but like what was I consuming through media, and make some changes to that. And I think that helps too. When you follow a bunch of wellness junkies, it is really hard not to stay motivated because they constantly post their workouts or their meditations or whatever they're doing, their cold
mm-hmm,
plunges, all the things.
mm-hmm,
And you just kind of, assimilate in some ways. You're like, I can do that.
mm-hmm,
And we
mm-hmm.
can't, we sat in a cold plunge for 6 minutes.
I
Like,
still can't believe it.
can't believe that we did that, but we did that. And you'll surprise yourself. I think I'm still surprised that I meditate every day. I kind of like laugh at myself about it because like when I tell you I used to roll my eyes at Melissa Wood, I would be like, oh, she was meditating again. Click, next story. Like, you know,
Mm-hmm.
um, and now I'm that person. Like any conversation I have with somebody, if it goes deep, I'm gonna ask you, do you
Mm-hmm.
meditate? 1,000%,
Mm-hmm.
because I feel like it's the one tool we can all benefit from, and I'm gonna shout it from the rooftops.
There you go.
There you go.
Get into it. Even if it's a struggle, do it.
It probably means that you need it more than anybody if it's really hard for you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No.
Honestly,
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I totally
like
agree.
lean into the stuff that's hard and challenging and see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
bring your spirituality to it. I think that's one of the things that I have found so surprisingly wonderful about it. It's not I didn't see how it could all be integrated, but it certainly can.
Mm-hmm.
And it has definitely strengthened my spiritual side
Mm-hmm.
in many ways. So,
Well, I mean, again, I'm using the word surrender, but you are changing your physiology by doing it, by focusing on the breath, by focusing on the moment. And so many other transformations are able to happen whenever we are able to, as humans, which are one of the only animals that can do this, because we are still an animal. And I'm reading a quantum physics book that applies to the body. And it really talks heavily about how one of the greatest gifts that we have as humans is the ability to control our nervous system if
mm,
we allow ourselves the opportunity to do it. And that is one of the defining characteristics. It's not that we build cars or have all this other stuff. It's the fact that from a very cellular point, that we
mm,
can actually control our physiological system in a way that no other animal can. And what a great power that we all have that we just don't allow ourselves to tap into. And it is
mm,
that
mm,
breath, it is that moment, it's that whole process that allows that to happen. Even from, like, people will say that they don't want to do yoga because they're not flexible, they can't stretch. Your flexibility comes from your breathing and from your physiology, from your nervous system's response. So it's not that your body wasn't made to do things, is that your mind has served as a block to it. Like, think about yourself as a
mm,
baby, think about yourself as a
mm,
child. Guess what? Just because you're not 8 anymore doesn't mean you can't do a split. No, it's
right.
because now your physiological response to that is saying, ouch, this hurts. But over time and practice, allowing yourself to breathe in and for you to remind your body that, if we settle, then it will soften.
Mm-hmm.
The same thing happens. And so it's a really, 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 it's a legit process, folks.
Yeah,
Fully
and that just
legit.
that release of like stress and cortisol, like it has so many benefits. Never, knock on wood, I like rarely get sick. I mean, I can't think in the last
Mm-hmm.
year, the last time I was sick. It really does have so many positive pre or impact on our bodies and our minds because I do believe that we are changing the cells in our body. Like when
Mm-hmm.
you're focused on that, you are having an impact on the cellular level. That is way more medical talk than I am, should ever talk about. But I mean, like you can feel it. You can feel a
Mm-hmm.
difference in your body when you're practicing these things. Um, so I had another thought and then I lost it, which is pretty typical. Felt like it was important at the time, though. Something else about. Oh, I know what it was. So, because I don't know if I've shared this, but I had a panic attack a couple weeks ago. I was at a friend's house and it came on like fast and furious. And I used the technique Sarah gave me, which is the ice pack. I put an ice pack on
Mm-hmm.
my chest. And then I just went and sat in the sun and started my meditation practice, just my deep breathing. And like that, if you're somebody that struggles with anxiety, that idea that you can regulate your nervous system seems like horseshit. Because you're like, if I could do it, I wouldn't have a panic attack. I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't need medication to get me out or whatever. And the fact that I was able to breathe myself through that panic attack and come out of it within a 10-minute time frame is something I've never been able to do before, and B reinforces why I do this because now I really have realized that I have control over these things. Same thing when we sat in that cold plunge. Your heart
Mm-hmm.
rate just jacks way the F up. Your heart is racing. Your brain is screaming, get me out of here. This is,
Mm-hmm.
and what did I tell you to do?
Breathe.
Focus on your breath, get your
breathe,
heart rate
breathe,
down.
breathe, breathe.
And once I figured out I could do that, I literally, that's where that magic comes from is that I can do anything. If you have lived through any type of anxiety or panic attack where you are completely out of control, then you know how exciting that must feel to realize, oh, wait, I have something I can do here. I can
Mm-hmm.
regulate myself. Um, That was powerful for me. I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, it made me way less fearful of ever having one again. I've said a million times, I'm like, scared to death of when the next one's going to happen because you don't know. It comes out of nowhere, literally comes out of nowhere. And now I'm like, you know what? I got tools. And if they don't work, I'll figure that out too. But like when that
Mm-hmm.
happened and I was able to regulate my heart rate and get myself out of it, I was like, game on. What can't I at this point?
That's a beautiful way to think about it. Absolutely. Yeah. I got this shit. Let's go.
Let's do it. What you got now,
Yeah.
body? Don't listen to what I'm saying. I don't need any more of them. But
But if you do,
you can generalize that to everything in life. What can't I do? If I know I can regulate my nervous system,
mm-hmm.
I think about the times when it was like the worst of the worst. I'm like, okay, now I got tools. If I'm ever back in that situation again, which I will be at some point, life happens. We are all faced with challenges in life. It's
Mm-hmm.
another tool. And that's what we're here to share. I hope this is helpful to someone listening. I
Mm-hmm.
hope if you have been thinking about a meditation practice, reach out to us on social media. I'm happy to share any tools, tips, tricks. Hopefully, you've listened to these podcast episodes and you've heard most of them.
Mm-hmm.
Create a little space, whatever it looks like, make it part of your routine and just start small,
Mm-hmm.
tiny. Start for 1 minute. I don't care how, 30 seconds, whatever you can handle.
Mm-hmm.
Start small and do it every single day because it's in the consistency that makes it the practice.
Mm-hmm. That's very true. It's the consistency. And it's the recognition that even if you don't think you're doing it, maybe you actually are doing it. It just may not be what we have as like a traditional like thought about it at
If you're
times.
if you're trying, you're doing it.
Right.
That's it. All you have
Right.
to do is try. You're doing it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's just like a workout. It doesn't matter if you get it exactly right or lift the
Mm-hmm.
heavy weight. If you do something, if you are trying to move your body, then you worked out. You did
Yep.
it.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyway, that's all we got for this week, folks.
Give her a go.
Until next week, LYLAS.
We're